lot's happening in the car business. Not that you would know it if you're brand new. You certainly, Lane, you've seen a lot of changes in your career, and you'll continue to see changes, if not transformation in a lot of different areas of our business. And there's some good, and depending on who you talk to, I suppose, some bad accordingly. So I want to deal with a couple of hard subjects right away, like out of respect. Because whenever you're in the car business, for 36 years, whenever I ask the question, how's business? It's slow. Slow. No customers is slow. And after 36 years, I'm wondering, when's it going to get good? And if I'm the new guy and you're the newer guy, 6 weeks, 3 weeks, you got to get out of this business, kid. No, go be the worst thing again. Do the worst thing. You know, don't do this. This business is going down. Down. These Trotmans, there aren't even any Trotmans. You know, it's this, I hope the business gets good one day. And you might be thinking, that's the same conversation for 36 years. It's like anything, nursing including, whatever we do is really about attitude. So I do want to prepare you, because you all get your news differently. Some of you get it specifically from social media. Some of you might watch the news. Heading into 2023, we could head into a recession in the car business and in our economy. That's the nasty R word. Sales trainers are told never to say that word to sales consultants. Does anybody know what a recession actually means by definition?
I think it's 2 quarters that are 2 consecutive quarters in which, we are obviously, and the market is coming down.
Negative.
And we are in negative. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But precisely, good. You're the first person that's actually known the technical definition. 2 business quarters that show negative economic growth. Now, that could be negative growth of 0.1%, but as long as it's negative, we're deemed to be in a recession. And so the problem with that is the media picks up on that. And then on the news, on social media, recession. That's right, doom and gloom. And I almost theorize that we almost create a problem that's sometimes not there. In other words, we scare each other into a recession, not to buy things, etc. And so what I do want you to know is I'm a sales trainer. I'm not an economist. I'm not, a politician. But I've lived through many recessions in the car business, a number of them. And here's what a recession generally looks like in the car business if we're coming into one. If. And by all accounts, politicians, economists predict that if we do slip into a recession next year, it'll be short. 1 year likely, 2 years possibly, which is short in terms of big picture thinking. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. So it kind of looks like this. In an average year in Canada, we sell 1.7 million new cars. That's an average.
Year over year.
Year over year. And we sell 3 million used cars. That's Canada. So in the United States, times 10, times 10. Worst years we've had in recent times were 2008, 2009. Some of you are too young, but that was the last big one. In fact, that recession was so bad, so dark, so deep, it was deemed to be the worst recession since the 1929 Great Depression. I remember watching the newscasts of big New York firms, investment firms going out of business, closing their doors that had been in business for 100 years. So in our worst recession, we sold that. Well, and it continued for about 2 years. So we were down on new cars about 400,000 cars each year. Now, if you're a company like Chrysler, like that kind of market shift means they're losing millions and millions of dollars. So what does that mean for Langley Chrysler? Well, they're down a little over 20%. So for Langley Chrysler, what a recession means, a bad one, means that instead of selling 150 cars a month, we sell 120. For a consultant, it means that instead of selling 10 cars a month, he sold 8. That's 20%. And in fact, sometimes that's not even the case, because every recession that I've experienced, salespeople leave the business and we don't replace them. In other words, if there's 20 people in a dealership, 5 of them leave because they're nervous about their prospects of being successful. Well, we just stay with the 15 that we have through the lean time. They all prosper. And then we worry about what to do when we have lots of customers coming through the doors. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you can check my facts, my numbers. It's Google stuff. But I just want to be proactive to suggest, over the next few months, you're probably going to hear a lot about the gloom and doom of 2023. Personally, I haven't got a clue. As I said, I'm a sales trainer, not an economist. What I am encouraged by, because I'm a political junkie, I was really encouraged by the US election. In the United States, you don't have to follow politics, but they had their midterm election. All of the pundits said that the Republican Party was just going to sweep and win everything. They didn't. And actually, the Democrats remained in control of the key chamber of the Senate. So who cares whether you're Republican or Democrat, liberal, conservative? All that meant was the stock markets went up. Stock markets wanted the Democrats to remain in control, number one. It's probably the demise of Donald Trump, likely. New, younger blood. And thirdly, almost at the same time, the United States announced that their inflation rate did not go up further. It had sort of peaked. Now, it could still go up, but it sort of settled, and their job numbers were up, meaning more people became employed. So there was actually a little bit of good news in the American Economic Forum. And we don't live in America, we live in Canada, but almost everything that happens there,
It's here.
right, makes sense? So be wary of the news, but also be wary, John. This is such a big turd of a business, but slow way, you're going to go bankrupt. And that's sometimes what you face in the car business. It's slow, all right? They're not doing nothing here. Like Weissman's going to do something. It's slow. It's slow. You could be a bouncer. You could do something. No, the CFL. He could be in the CFL, even though he's older now. Did you know that? You could be in the. You don't need to sell cars. Did you know that? You're big. You can do anything. You can be a nurse. So, agreed. So be careful of who you speak to in the next year and what their motives are. Right. Grab food, by the way. That's yours if you want the junk. As you can see, I'm not one of those healthy sales trainers, motivation and health and good eating and mental well-being.
Yeah.
I have no mental well-being. I have no health. I don't eat healthy. I'm the anti-sales trainer. What I want to start with is interest rates. If you're not already having conversations, there'll be some customers that are asking about, questioning, or objecting to interest rates. And if they're not now, they will be, definitely. Interest rates are probably going to go up again, and maybe even twice. That's probable. So if you're not having these conversations, you probably will. I'm not asking you to bring this up with customers. I just want you to have some good information and some good talk points if they bring it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I might be able to fill in some gaps on a couple of things. So I'm going to provide you a handout that has a few word tracks. And the idea of the word tracks is that it gives you some things to kind of craft into your own words, but to have some discussions if people want to talk about it. Now, please bear in mind, when somebody indicates to you that they're unhappy with the interest rate on a new or pre-owned vehicle, in a high percentage of the time, they already know what the interest rate is. Sometimes it's just their way of, number one, complaining about something, and negotiation tool. That's right. Can you negotiate this? Can you give me a free hat? what can you give me because the rate is high, or the dealership, they're set by the Canadian chartered banks. We all get our money from the same place. So I just want you to imagine that if you owned a home and the mortgage rate went up, you wouldn't be getting in your car, squealing down to your local bank and accosting the branch manager, what has happened with my mortgage? I won't stand for this. We wouldn't even think of that because the branch manager of your local bank's got a mortgage too. There's actually some customers that are of the belief that Chrysler Canada or Stellantis or Brad Trotman sets the interest rate. Top tier customers would only be able to get, at very best, 6.95%, and that's a floating variable rate. Our fixed rate is 6.99. If a customer walked into a bank branch, because it's their local bank, they have their mortgage there, or they have other dealings there, and they just like their local bank, they have a relationship with the branch manager. If they wanted a fixed rate standard auto loan right now for your cars, the rates would be 9.9 to 11.9% for the exact same loan that you would offer through financial services here, through Jen, through Tyler, through one of your FSMs. Does that make sense?
Yep.
In fact, the branches head office of the banks will not allow their branches to offer the same rates that you offer through your dealer plans. You know that? The customer cannot get a better rate for a standard auto loan at a chartered bank. It's forbidden.
Are we talking only for brand new or used the same?
Both. Both. And there's a reason for that. You see, you do business here, you represent TD, Scotiabank, CIBC, Bank of Montreal, and you do 150 car deals a month. 80% of them would be financed.
Speed and equation.
There's a lot of business that goes through this dealership and the other dealerships, Willowbrook, Maple Ridge, etc. A lot more business than would walk into a local bank branch. So what the head office says is, look, bank branches, if a customer walks in asking for a car loan, refer them to the local dealer. Ask them, no, what are you buying? Probably a Jeep. Where do you think you're going to buy it? Probably either Langley Chrysler or Maple Ridge. If you do, can you please ask for Scotiabank financing? That's what they're supposed to do.
Dealer finances a negotiated rate with the dealers at a lower cost than they would get as a bank. So.
Correct. Yeah, and it's that way because that's what head office wants.
Right.
And there's two reasons: because of the volume of business that goes through here.
Yep.
So Scotia fights with TD fights with Bank of Montreal to get Brad Trotman and to get all of you to use their source, because there's a lot of business.
Yep.
And secondly, you're much more automated than the branches. And so it's your technology that the big banks want. So you have something called a portal where a financial services manager can enter the credit details of the customer. They hit send. That actually goes right into the bank system. It penetrates the banking system, and it can spit back an approval in Canada in 4 seconds. The technology was Canadian. It was invented by 2 Torontonians, and it was exported all over the world. So it's just a matter of, hey, we can do the legwork through technology and automation. So who cares? You sell cars. The reason I want you to know that is, number one, a customer cannot get a better rate somewhere else. Number two, sometimes what a branch will do, if a customer comes in and says to the person at concierge in the branch, could I talk to somebody about a car loan? Sure. And they would ask you to sit down or make an appointment. Somebody would come up and talk to you, a personal banking officer, they're called PBOs. And they would bring you to an office and, Arash, what are you looking at? I'm looking to get a Wrangler. Great. From a new car dealer? Yes. Which one? Maybe, just curious. Probably Langley. You could get a car loan, which would be a fixed interest rate for a fixed number of payments, or what I can do for you, like how much do you think the Wrangler's going to be, all in?
80K.
80,000? Okay, that sounds about right. Could probably just set you up with a line of credit for 100. line of credit is the worst vehicle, the worst tool to pay for a car. All I want to kind of share with you is that even a customer that's paying today with a line of credit, their rate will likely be prime plus 3. That's the common. Prime plus 3, so 8.95. And that would be a variable floating rate. Theoretically, if you get yourself into a variable rate, to take that risk, it should be lower than a fixed rate. Comparison to the marketplace, auto loans versus bank branches versus credit unions and other sources are now at the low, in terms of what's available to the customer. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Up here, you have Bank of Canada. They have something called a prime rate. I can't remember what it is, probably about 2%. And sometimes on the news, if you watch business news like Bloomberg or something of that nature, they'll use the terms, the Fed has raised the prime by 0.2 basis points, 0.2%. And the current prime is 2%. So then what Bank of Canada does is the Bank of Canada is like the wholesaler of the money. So they're like Chrysler Canada. And then they sell the money to Scotia, TD, CIBC, Bank of Montreal, all the chartered banks. And these are kind of like the retailers, like you, the dealerships. And then they get together, literally, and decide on what's called chartered bank prime. And it's currently 5.95%. And then they mark that up to sell it to you, the consumer. So there's 2 prime rates, and people sometimes mistakenly, especially if they're kind of, 2%. Yeah, that's right. If they think they're a player, David, I don't think you understand what I do and the kind of person I am in the community and, well, my vast success. I don't understand these interest rates. I can get my money at 1 over prime.
Great. Big answer.
1 over prime, and sort of this kind of attitude. And there is the odd time, and I'll give you a great example. If Brad Trotman walked into Bank of Montreal, which I think is his bank, and said, listen, I'm just looking for $100,000 quick line to do a little painting, renovating, that bank would probably call regional head office, say, Mr. Trotman is here. What do you want us to do? Give him a line at 1 over prime. We don't care. We'll lose money. He's got millions with us, in different products and services. So it'll be a throwaway. So my point being, the odd, truly top tier customer, but I mean mega top tier customer, might get, a pretty attractive rate, but that's kind of rare. You don't have to educate the public. It's just knowing. And part of what I do, frankly, is brainwashing. You could refinance your vehicle by paying out this vehicle loan with a line of credit at a lower rate. With our dealer plan loans, you can pay them off at any time without interest or administrative penalties. If rates go up, you're protected with a lower, locked-in fixed rate. It's a no-lose situation. Your financial services managers will share this with you. This has been happening since I've been in the auto industry. You successfully sell a vehicle, and off they go to financial services. And there's our FSM. The most common question asked by a customer to your financial services manager after at least my over 3 decades, is this an open loan?
Yes.
Because the wife, her and I are paying it off early. We're at the Richmond Mall at H&R Block, and we're getting a tax return early. Yeah. Is this open? It's open. Yes? Are you laughing at me? I just want to clarify, because this is important. If a customer wants to pay out their auto loan through a dealer plan, there's no interest and there's no administrative penalties. And administration means they don't charge you $50 to close out the loan, not a penny. And the reason that I joke that people ask this question commonly is because many Canadians are involved with a loan product that is not open, it's closed. Do you know what that is?
Let's say you have a mortgage on your house and you want to sell your house, then you have to pay penalty on paying back
To get
the
out.
mortgage.
Correct. So if you pay out your mortgage early,
Which is
there are
about
penalties.
2 months of interest.
So it would stand to reason that if a customer has a mortgage and they're aware that there are penalties for paying it off early, they would naturally assume a car might be the same. So we just have to remind them, we say, hey, look, if you bought a car today at 6.99% and interest rates went up, well, good news, your rate is fixed. But let's say we're all wrong. Let's say next year interest rates go down and you're thinking, what the heck did I do? I had 699. Well, what you could do is just go to your bank, get a line of credit if the interest rate at that time is 499 and pay off our car loan
Yeah.
because it's open. And then what you're doing is your own refinancing, and all of that would take about an hour at your local branch. And so it's a no-lose situation for a customer because our rate is fixed and it's an open loan agreement. You will buy new vehicles at various different interest rates from 0% to 13.75% and everything in between. Interest rates are set based on the economy and Bank of Canada policy. Sometimes you'll be buying low and sometimes you're buying slightly higher. It's almost unavoidable, but it tends to even out over a longer period of time. Look at it like investments or the stock market. So you don't have to be an investor, you don't have to be the Wolf of Wall Street, but it's safe to say that even the most brilliant investors of our time don't always buy every stock low. Is it safe to say they don't sell every stock high? It's a gamble. Well, I kind of try to ask people to think about interest rates the same. Now, John, your age, you got 50 years ahead of you of buying cars. Mine, it's kind of 30 years behind me. But what was interesting, I was sitting at my desk a few weeks back, I was going through a file of vehicle purchases, old bills of sale, loan agreements, etc. And I pulled one, and it was a brand new 2010, and it was a 36-month loan, and it was 7%. And I thought to myself, God, I don't remember paying 7% for a car loan. And then it kind of dawned on me, because the sales consultant would have been very forthcoming. I wouldn't have missed that. I know how to look at a bill of sale. But it dawned on me, okay, that was a 2010 model year, purchased in 2009. Recession. Didn't seem to bother me today. And I realized as I went through my bills of sale, I've kept all of them for about the past 25 plus years. I had some 6.9s, some 2.9s, I had a 0, a 4.9. It was kind of this. But then I thought to myself, what's about the average rate I've paid?
2.5.
Yeah, overall it was pretty low. So you're kind of saying to people, look, you don't, like if this really bothers you, the option is not to buy a car, but it's going to even out, like the stock market. Now, something else to consider, I just came up with this data. There's two pieces of data. I had one, I got a second piece of data, which is really interesting. Let's say somebody says, I'm wondering if I should sit this out, just not buy a vehicle because of the interest rate. So their intention would be to keep their current vehicle. There's a cost to that, a new cost. And the new cost would be as follows. So the customer's rationale is, instead of paying the higher interest rate on a new vehicle, I'll just continue driving my current vehicle. According to the CAA, a 6-year-old vehicle will average 6 years old or older, $1,400 per year in repairs and maintenance. So if somebody said, I'm going to keep my car another 4 years, 1,400 times 4 years, that's another $5,600 of additional cost, because you wouldn't have near that cost with a newer vehicle. So that extra $5,600 would certainly offset a lot of the additional interest. Here's what's more interesting to you. The 6-year-old pickup truck in Canada, according to the CAA, will average $2,200 of maintenance and repairs. So if they capped it from 6 years to 10, an additional 4 years, that's $8,800 in repairs and maintenance on average. I just want to acknowledge that, for a customer that says, well, maybe I'll just sit this one out and I'll wait till interest rates come down. Yeah, you can keep your current vehicle. Of course you can. That's an option. But there's also a cost to that. So don't just look at the additional interest. You can look at, yes, you're paying more interest, but you also have to look at you're going to pay more for that vehicle as it ages out. Is that pretty simple?
Yep.
Yeah. This is just more education, and there's a reason that you have confident discussions about interest rates. So it goes like this. Yes, the interest rate is higher, however, so is the return on your investments. If you borrowed for a new vehicle, $50,000 over 84 months at an interest rate of 6.49%, that would be the total interest on that loan. So it means at the end of 84 months, you would have repaid this plus this, $62,347. Now, if you happen to have money, a little bit, you've got some savings, you're careful. If you invested $50,000, you could get a guaranteed return of 5.25% with a GIC, a guaranteed investment certificate.
Do they like 5.25 for 8 years, for 7 years?
Yes. Yes, go on. You fund it. That's the interest you'll earn. $22,148. So there's the breakdown. This is how much you're going to pay in interest to finance the car. This is how much you're going to make if you had an additional $50,000, and that's your profit. So in this example, you would be ahead by $9,801, meaning that when vehicle lending rates are low, like 0 to 3%, your return on investments is also low. However, it works the other way. When vehicle lending rates are higher, your return on investments is also higher. So it's just reminding us, and it is a reminder on brainwashing. And I always tell you that when I'm trying to brainwash you, is that customers are kind of funny sometimes, where I've actually had customers say to me, 0% is all right, but I'm getting killed in the market. I'm getting killed on my money. Like they're complaining about 0%. Then it becomes 6.9. You guys are thieves, robbers. That's the same customer that's cleaning up.